Hello and welcome back to the Wedding Business Podcast with me, your host, Faye Cornhill. Today I am joined by club member Abigail. Abigail, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. I'm excited for this. In true podcast recording style, we've just had a good 20-minute podcast that we didn't record. We were like, we should really hit record now. For the people listening who don't know who you are, tell us, who are you? What's your business? What do you do?
So I'm Abigail Amankwa. I'm currently 27, which is crazy. So I say I'm 27 because I started my business at 19, which is insane that I started as a teenager. But when I was growing up, I was obsessed with Ace of Cakes. I don't know if you know that. I was obsessed with coming home, watching Ready, Steady, Cook with Ainsley Harriott. I don't know where he's gone now, but honestly, I would watch that after school. Instead of like playing, I would watch that. And then obviously Bake Off came. So I have two older sisters and they worked in a library. And on the weekends, I would go and see them and then just go to, if you're a library nerd, 641, which is like the cookery section.
I love that you know.
I'm such a crazy person. So I would go to 641, I would go to the cookery section and borrow so many cookery books, but specifically baking books. So if I didn't say before, I'm a wedding cake designer. And as I was growing up, I would bake on the weekends, get like a ready box mix of cake, and then bake on the weekends. Now, when we did family food shop, I would just like sneak in so many baking ingredients. At this point, I was like 10, 11. And then from there, I studied for GCSEs. I studied like business, and then my A levels business, economics, English. I literally did English for my dad. Like I did art as well, but I did English for my dad because he's super passionate about English as well. So I'm from a family of very academic people. And then I said to my parents, if you didn't know, sorry, I'm from Ghanaian heritage. I said to my parents, I am not going to university. I just didn't want to. I did not want to go to university. So as I was 19, I actually started working in a library. And then on the side of it, I started making cakes, like actually for people. So a colleague asked me to do their wedding cake. I said yes. In looking back, I charged him like £500 as an ID rod. I'm like, what? I have no idea. And that was just for like, and obviously he paid for like the cake top and things like that. But I was thinking, what the heck am I doing? £500. Anyway, so what I did was I made the wedding cake and I started doing birthday cakes. And then fast forward a couple of years, did that part-time, work in a library. And then I actually got some work experience inside a bakery. Now, this is the plot twist. So I actually don't really speak about much. I actually got fired from my, yeah,
I did not know that. Caveat, people.
Oh, so I got fired. So I was working 2 months for a very well-known bakery, which I will not drag under the mud. And then I applied for another job. I applied for another bakery, which actually turned out to be the bakery that made the royal wedding cake, Violet Bakery.
Wow.
Yeah, got the job, but I had to work Sundays. I'm a Christian, didn't want to work Sundays because I was going to church, so I turned down the job. And the bakery that I was working with, actually asked me, "Why are you taking this time off?" And I was like, I need it for a job interview. Bear in mind, I was 19, so I just didn't know how to maneuver any of this. So they actually ended up firing me because of me applying for another job. Yeah. So after that, after 19, that is actually the moment I got into my business. Back then, it was called M&H Cake, which stands for Milk and Honey. And then I fast forward to 2020. I was doing weddings, and then like when I say weddings, I probably had like 3 a year because I was still working, so I could only do them in summer holidays. So at that time, I was working as a school librarian. So yeah, 2020 hit, as we know, the panoramic, and I started posting cake. Just like posted it to a couple of my friends. They were called cake tubs back then. And then their friends told their friends, and it literally grew like it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. At that point, I was 22, 23, and I had no idea what I was doing. No idea what I was doing. But my business, by God's grace, was growing like crazy. I would have to drive. At that point, I was working from home. I'd have to drive on my lunch breaks outside of London to go and buy flour, eggs, butter, come back, and then work, and then bake in the morning, and then bake literally till the early hours of the morning. I was at that point, obviously, there was no wedding, so I was doing postal cakes I was on not on the high street, which was fantastic. And then I was doing wholesale orders. So I'd have to make 5,000 cookies. And it was just like, I was just like a washing machine. I was literally at breaking point. And that's the weird thing about success, because success, obviously, from the outside, it looks like, oh my days, Abigail's business growing crazy. And little did you know, I was literally in like, I was like a little skeleton. Well, I'm a charming girl, so I wasn't a skeleton, but I felt like a skeleton. Oh, it was a lot. But yeah, that is like the business overview in a nutshell. And then, sorry, I should say I quit my job in 2020. I handed in my notice and I've been full-time ever since. I literally thought when I was going to email my manager, I was like, I'm quitting my job. I thought I'd be on the streets. There's like that weird thing of like, I'm going to be on the streets now. How am I going to eat? But no, it's been absolutely fine.
Oh goodness, I have so many questions about everything you've just said. God, what an intro. Like, by the way, Abigail, when you applied to come onto this podcast, it took me the square root of about 1 second to hit reply. I don't even think I went through the questions, because I just think, and I obviously know this about you already, starting your business at 19, I just think is phenomenal. And I want to talk to you today about that, but also social media, because I think what you're doing is brilliant. I've been a fan of what you've been putting out there for quite a while. But when I was 19, just for context, and I'm kind of a get up and do it kind of gal, as you know, when I was 19, there is no way I would have had all of the things required to do what you need to do to start a business. So I feel like we just need to celebrate you for a second for that, because whilst you might have said to your parents who were desperate for you to go to university, I ain't going, I think you trumped that and some by starting a business. And you're absolutely right. What you said about, everyone from the outside looking in, like, wow, this has just sort of magically happened for you, Abigail. And of course, the truth is, and I can only imagine it was worse at 19, that you are spinning plates and dropping them at a rate of not, like, it must have been crazy for you.
Yeah, and I should say, like, starting at 19, you don't feel young. As I said, I had two older sisters, and they are significantly older than me, 11 years and 8 years. So I was always kind of, I feel like I'm a millennial / Gen Z, even though I am. So I felt older than I was. But then the reality is that when your friends are going to uni and having that whole lifestyle, I am working. I'm coming home to work and I'm working some more. Like, it's completely different. But then thankfully I have a friendship group that is also older. So yeah, I did miss out on, like, my entire 20s was building my business. My entire 20, like, looking back at it, I've spent my 20s building my business. Which is like so bizarre, but I wouldn't trade it for anything else. I know I could get a corporate job. I know I could be a corporate girly with my little briefcase and do like something like along the lines of marketing or business or something like that. I want job satisfaction. I would rather take, like, and this is obviously like another side of the wedding industry. It's incredible. It's fun, but you are taking a hit inside your wage. We could both be earning a very different wage. It's somewhere else. And obviously, it's not to say that we're like eating toast for dinner, but sometimes sourdough is nice for dinner. But I should say, like, you can earn a different wage somewhere else, but I don't want to trade the flexibility and my job satisfaction.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally. Like, when you look at, and I used to work in recruitment, so I was quite good at selling people a package. But when you look at your salary, but then you look at an overall package of, like, you get the company car and you get this and you get that. That's how I used to sell people jobs when I worked in recruitment. And actually, when you look at our job, if you like, running our business, and you look at the package that we have, oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Like, time off to do the things you want to do, the ability to say, no, I don't want to do that. Like, you get an inquiry from somebody that you're like, I think you might be a bit of a jerk, actually. You're like, no. This is, and that freedom is priceless, isn't it?
I agree. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't.
No,
Don't get me wrong, it's hard. Like I'm not I grew up being obsessed with Disney, and I think Disney did lie to us. But
for sure, for sure.
I it's incredible, but it's as you know, it's hard work. It's because it's so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Running a business is so vulnerable, especially when you put so much time into it, resources. You are, as we were speaking about before, when you put something out there, you open yourself up for criticism. So when someone says like, can you just do a review on this, or can you see this, be ready to be like, well, you've got spelling mistakes all over here. It's out of focus, like it's all of that stuff.
That is my speciality, me and spelling mistakes. I have to get my husband to check everything, so I'm like, I'm not open to someone criticizing me again for the spelling mistake. But you're absolutely right, and it's kind of like laughable, but actually, it's quite a serious side of social media. Like we were chatting before we came online about, you know, how much you put out about yourself and your personal life and what you do behind the scenes. And Abigail said this exactly what you just said there, and I've never thought about it like that. You said you've got to be willing to be criticized, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, like you've got to expect people to give you feedback on stuff. And I think that's why I personally, there's certain things that I just don't talk about for that very reason.
Absolutely. I had a really weird experience. I've had a good couple of them. Like I'm a seller not in the high street, as I mentioned, and there was one time they were doing a supplier spotlight, and at that time they were coinciding it with Black History Month. Now I would rather, putting out there, I'd rather be recognized for a cake maker rather than a black cake maker, because very rarely do we say Chinese cake maker or like Croatian cake maker, right? So they did a spotlight my business, and that was in the peak of like the just everything being a bit rare. And sorry, I did do claw signs, silly thing about me. And they shouted at my business, and my sister messaged me. She was like, have you seen the comments? And I was like, no, because I'm not a comment girly. I don't go in the comments other than like a YouTube video, be like, oh, what they say in the comments. And someone made a really bizarre comment of like, oh, now I have this really, I love myself. I love my mind for this because sometimes it just blanks things out. But it was something along the lines of, oh, it's really bizarre that we're having to shout at black businesses. Can't we just do normal businesses or something like that, right? Something along the lines of that. My friends caught wind of it, and they started saying, "Oh, this is so amazing!" M&H just back then, it's being shouted out, celebrated. More people jumped onto that and said, "Why are we having to like shout?" It basically was the whole race card, right?
Yeah.
My friends got called Trump supporters. They were basically attacked from. It was just crazy. Not the high street contacted me, and then I said, like, I don't know really what this is happening. It was a picture of me and a cake. Like literally, it was me and a cake.
I feel like we're missing the point here, kind of, guys.
Oh, and at that time, I think they're near 1 million, but like at that time, it was like probably 500,000 followers, and it just spread like wildfire. And then unfortunately they had to like completely delete the post. And if I should say, if you're going to be a troll, put your account on like private. Don't put your account on where everyone can see everything. So that is the negative side, because you are opening, and I think, okay, I'm opening myself up, but I'm sorry, I'm opening myself to something that really can't be changed. I can't change that. But if I'm opening myself up to, this is my website with really poor iPhone photography and spelling mistakes, you can be criticized for that. But for the other side of it, it's just like, okay, it's just unfortunately, it is what it is. Unfortunately, sometimes like that. But yeah, that is the negative side
Good
to it.
God. It's just, yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard to swallow stuff like that, though, isn't it? It's hard to be like, I mean, I've not been personally in that situation, but I feel like I feel like I have a responsibility to go and like fight people for you because it's stupid. Like, I actually feel like I need to go and like, these people have got to learn. But again, you sort of, how much can you do that in the comments of an Instagram post?
Yeah.
It must just have been a bit exhausting, that whole thing for you.
Oh, I was just sitting, like, you know that Bernie Sanders like me. was just sitting because I know I don't need to defend myself. I have my beautiful, wonderful friends and
Yeah.
customers that were like in the comments, and they were like, they weren't being mean or anything. They really weren't. But I was just sitting there with my gloves, like my Bernie Sanders.
Got a vision of you in an anorak now, and it's quite special. Maybe for the next photo shoot.
Oh.
Oh, so let's open this up into kind of social media in general then. I'm guessing based on what you've said, and just because you're somebody in the wedding industry, you've had your moments of love hate with social media.
Mhm.
Has it always been that way? Like, are there equal good moments as bad moments? As like, what's your experience like?
It's been on the whole really mixed. Now, I think the negative sides of social media, it really, when I'm reading myself too much into it. And I think sometimes a lot of us get so caught up in social media because, and I should say, I'm a very deep person. I'm a very deep person. But because we put ourselves so much into social media, instead of we're really like seeing social media through the mind of a client. So if I'm on social media, like going it on myself, and I'm comparing myself, and then I'm seeing someone else is doing better, that's when the negativity starts to come in because I'm just so much invested in it. But when I see it as a business tool, I'm using it, and that's when it's okay. And that's when I can really see the shift. But I think it's negative when I am really kind of self-conscious and just compare myself a bit too much. And I think comparison can be good. I really do think it can be because, okay, what's she doing? Not to say that, please, I've had this before also. Someone literally print screened my picture and put their logo on top of it. And at that point, yeah, they put their thing on top of it. And it's funny. I don't really think about these things as much, but I actually shared it to my sister, who's a food blogger, and she said, well, message them, send them a message, say, if you're not going to take this down by 12 p.m. today, they were actually in Australia. If you're not going to take this down by 12 p.m. today, I'm going to invoice you. It was something ridiculous, like 10,000, because obviously in the food blogging world, people do that all the time. So I sent a message saying, hey, just letting you know, if you don't take this down by this time, I will be sending you an invoice for £10,000. I'll also be reporting your account to Instagram. They took it down immediately. They didn't block me, which was fantastic, but they took it down immediately. Granted, they don't have to pay that, but I still reported them because I did tell them that I was going to be reporting them because it's theft. Like I wouldn't do that to another business in real life. So it's mixed. I think it's fantastic. Like we'll talk about this later on, but I get so much of my business from social media, and specifically Instagram. But now going to TikTok, like so much of my business through there, and I've met fantastic, like actual friends, which is really bizarre. And I should say, like I always used to hear people say, "Oh, I met my bestie on social media, my business bestie." And until last year, I didn't really have friends on social media like that because I didn't use it like that. I actually did like a business consulting. This was before I knew you. I had a business consultant, Bernadette. We love her. And I did like a 3-month stint with her. She said, you need to network. You actually need to make relationships out there. And that's why also I joined the Wedding Business Club, which has been great. I'm doing a thumbs up for the audience. Which has been great. But I should say it was fantastic having that mindset shift of I'm actually building friendship and also I'm using it for like a business. This is not a personal social media. I'm very anti, for me personally, social media personally, because I'm very prone to wasting time and comparing myself like we all are. So yeah, I it's very mixed, but I love it on the whole.
Yeah. I mean, I think my part of my sort of making peace with social media is recognizing that it is a business tool. It's not the be all and end all. And I think sometimes like the outside looking into this wedding industry can be a little bit like, well, you make yourself an Instagram account, you put a bunch of nice, pretty stuff on it, and then off you go. And it's not, is it? Like social media is one part. I mean, you know, we talk about it in the club, the 4 pillars of running a successful wedding business. Marketing is one of those, and social media is part of that one pillar. So it's not even a quarter of your business. It's one part of your marketing. Do you feel the same?
Of course. And I made that shift of social media being one part of marketing when I felt like I was getting the dregs, like the inquiries. And that was before I rebranded. So I rebranded last October, November. So now obviously I'm called Bloom and Crumb. And that was because I needed to get out of the teenager business like phase. I started my business at 19, but it still felt like it was 19. It wasn't matching up. So the prices I wanted to charge, well, the prices I was charging, just didn't feel like it matched my brand. People would make mistakes with my names. It was M&H Cakes, M&H Bakery, all of this stuff. And I went to the Lake District for like a solo walking trip. And I was like, oh, Bloom and Crown. Like I always use flowers, and I love the word bloom and just the significance of that. We're in the blooming season now. Like it's beautiful. But I had to change. I had to rebrand, and I've forgotten the question.
Well, we were just talking about like social media not being the be all and end all.
Oh yes. So I had to kind of move away from just Instagram, because in my mind I was like, my marketing is just social media. No, it's not. Because, and that's something I'll probably explain a little bit later on, but social media, I think, is really for other clients, so not for other clients, other wedding industry professionals. They're scouting you out, the planners, the photographers that are doing the workshops that really need a cake or a flower, florist, something like that. And then I found that SEO and recommended suppliers list are actually for like the clients, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So we're really marketing towards our peers, because if you have a look at your clients, if you have a look at your followers, they're other suppliers. But then if you go off social media, people are just Googling cake in London. Sorry, I didn't even say I'm in London. Cake in London. And they are going off what Google tells them.
Yeah, I very much agree. I remember finding it really frustrating with my photography business. I'm like, all of my followers are other wedding businesses. And then I had a penny drop moment of, oh, hang on, no, that's a good thing, because they are my people, they are my network. I need to make friends with them because I'm useful for them, they're useful for me. We're part of this amazing industry. So yeah, anyone who's like, oh, all of my followers are other people in the industry, it's not necessarily a bad thing, that definitely not. So let's talk about what's working well for you currently on socials.
Yeah, I am loving. So right now, I'm just focusing on Instagram and TikTok. Plot twist. I used to do Pinterest, but I moved away from Pinterest because I grew my following to just under either 500,000 like monthly views.
Wow.
I invested a year into Pinterest. I got nothing out of it.
Wow.
I got nothing out of it. Now, if I have something like if ever I'm doing my hair, I'm like, okay, we are going to do a marketing day, or we're doing like an enrichment day. Doing my hair, listening to it at the same time, and I listen to so many things about Pinterest. Pinterest has done wonders for some people, but I found that okay, my market is in America. Who is going to, unless they're like an international client, which I probably have like 3 to 4 a year or 2 to 4 a year, then really not. And they've got a planner, so they've got a planner in the UK that's doing that.
Yeah.
Pinterest just didn't work for me, so I took that away. I do schedule some pins every now and then because I think that's great to keep it going and ticking over. Not on LinkedIn yet, because I think that's B2B. My clients are not hanging out there, but I zeroed in on who my ideal client was, and I can smell them out. I'm like, whenever I get an inquiry and I have like a quick, I don't really do this often. I don't go onto their social media often, but if they follow me, I'm like, okay, I know that I will make a cake for you. Like, I know I can make a cake for you. Let me just convince you. Because at that point, really at the point of inquiry, because my inquiry process is basically like an MI6 application. Like, I had to put so many filters for you to talk to me. I'm giving so much of myself to you for half an hour. I'm not just doing that to anyone. So there's a lot of hoops that they have to jump through. Now, to that point, I'm able to kind of suss out if they are like going to book me. At that point that they've done the pre-consultation form, the consultation form, they're kind of really sold already. But at that point of consultation, they just kind of want to be convinced, answer any questions, and then they book straight away. Like that, whenever you used to say that, like that was an option in WBC, you'd have people that just literally book straight away. I would be like, what? Are you joking? Are you joking?
I know, which is why I have to say the caveat, like this might feel so far off for you right now, but that is exactly what you described there. That is possible when you get who your ideal client is.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you also want to, and I think this is one thing that we need to remember. We've got loads of different markets. Now, my ideal client is a millennial. Really like my ideal, not ideal client, ideal paying client. She is really around the age of like 34 to like 43, like around the age bracket. I say that because now I'm 27. What 27 average 27-year-old is really going to put down 100K for their wedding? They may out of their own money, right? They may, but the older that they get, the more willing they are because they've already secured their first house. They've already, like, this is very general speaking, but they already have ticked off those things. So they want to get married now and they want to have a nicer wedding. They don't want to get married in London because they work in London. They are getting married in a manor house, a country house further away in Surrey, wherever. So that is my ideal client. I can kind of know whenever I see the wedding venue, I'm like, hey, like, I've got a couple more to tick off, but I can kind of tell. So now I would say TikTok is fantastic because there is like a social media timeline. And I was into a podcast about this and I think it was so helpful. Now, let's do it like as a holiday, right? We'll go away from weddings, but let's do it as a holiday. Say we're going to Cairo and I am flying out to Cairo. What I do firstly is this is me personally, I have a quick Google of like places to visit in Cairo. Those like things pop up, right? And then let me get specific. I need to book a flight. Go on Skyscanner, I book my flight. It's like £50 and like off season, right? So I'm using Google. And then I want to see what I'm actually going to do. So I go long form content and I'm doing YouTube. I go onto YouTube and then all of these places, things to eat, places to see, all that stuff. Now I need to go a little more granular. So I need to book my hotel. I go onto TikTok and this sounds insane. As
I'm nodding because I'm in total agree. This is how I plan my trips. I'm still with you. I'm like, yeah.
This sounds insane, but can you see how many things we are actually using? We're using Google, we're using YouTube, and we're using TikTok. We're not even on Instagram yet. So I am on TikTok and I'm seeing like, and it's not even, I am more sold by micro influencers. Mm-hmm. If I see, and they are so powerful. Yeah. And that's what, like, I should say for context right now, don't know how many followers I've got right now, but it's around like between 5 and 6,000. That for me is more powerful because I've got an engaged audience. I have got an engaged audience, which I'm so thankful for. That's more powerful than having 50K followers.
I agree.
Because my max of weddings is 40 a year. I've only got 40 couples I need to sell to. If they're all engaged and invested, that's way better for me than it is like 40 plus. Okay, so the timeline. So we're on TikTok, we're getting the hotels, and then I need to see things to do. So I'm going to go to Instagram. I'm going to go in the geo tag. I'm seeing places to visit. And then I'm booking I've got my hotel, I've got my flight, and then I'm also making a list on like Notional Notes where I'm going to be visiting. So can you see how many things people are like hitting at that point? Tumblr, it's not a thing, unfortunately. Pinterest, I didn't really include that. And not TikTok, LinkedIn. Well, unless I'm having a business meeting, like, or unless I'm like meeting up with someone. But I recently came back from a trip and I was going to meet up with another baker. I could have jumped onto LinkedIn, but I found her through Instagram. So how many things are we hitting there? But for weddings, I think I'm going to speak for the cake industry. Personally, I think, unfortunately, and I love me or hate me for saying this, but I think if we have a look at the suppliers, cake people are really at the bottom. Unfortunately, they're really at the bottom because we have this mentality of, well, my Aunt Sue can make it, so why should I pay 1.5K for a cake? And that's just the mentality. And we, unfortunately, some of us have adopted that like uncomfortability of like charging 4 figures for a cake. So we just value ourselves so low, but we're valuing ourselves because we're putting iPhone photography on our feeds. Now, if you've got like an iPhone, I don't know what we're on. Are we iPhone 45 Max now? I don't even know.
It's like the old Now CDs. What Now are we on? I pass. I don't know.
I have no idea. But we're still having iPhone photography. Your clients have no idea what you look like. That's one of my pet peeves. As millennials, I'm not even millennial, I'm a Gen Z, I'm sorry. But millennials want to buy from people. So instantly, as soon as I go onto someone's account, I want to see who you are. I'm not saying you have to do this incredible, like America's Next Top Model, like photo shoot. I'm just saying, I just want to see you. I'm like, if we think about it, we're actually spending like average between like 800 to like 2K. I'm sending that to the like abyss if I have no idea who you are, right? I want to see who you actually are. Okay, so with weddings, you want to touch the little points of that timeline. So if we are just focusing on buy my cake, buy my cake, buy my cake, there's so many people saying that. But if you actually touch the other points of, like, one of the things I did was on TikTok was this venue review. Now, it was really interesting. I posted basically the same video from TikTok on Instagram. Instagram tanked. On TikTok, that basically went everywhere, and it was crazy. I just did a venue review of Ashridge House. I went there on a shoot, and that shoot did wonders for me. So thankful. Honestly, I'm so thankful. Went there on a shoot. I just basically took like loads of little clips around and put together like a really quick TikTok saying, if you want like the ultimate fairy tale vibes, you want to get married here. From that, I was able to get on the recommended suppliers list. From that, I actually booked a wedding from that. So this this lady contacted me. She probably contacted me way months before. She saved the video and she contacted me ages before booking me because she was scouting. I really want, like, I don't know if you do this, but if I'm going to buy something, if I'm going to get a Stanley Cup, I'm sorry, don't hate me. If I'm going to get a Stanley Cup, this was a gift. If I'm going to get a Stanley Cup, I want to see other people using it. I want to see other people doing it. So I save those things. But then you're saving things that are really going to be later on, they're going to buy from you. So that went everywhere. On Instagram, at the point of Instagram, people already got their venue, really. Or so it's very polarizing. If either they've got their wedding venue, or they're so early on, they're just like looking everywhere and crying everywhere. Like, hey, can I have a cake for like Tuesday, a 48 cake for Tuesday when it's Friday? So it's like that type of vibe. But I do think it is really powerful hitting the points along the way. So by hitting the points, I mean, okay, you're reviewing their venue. This is what I do. So still my strategy. You're reviewing the venue. You're giving them advice that, like, my most, like, the best performing reels, I've got a reel which I literally made in like 10 minutes in my car. And like that got, I think it's at like 600,000, over like almost 700,000 views. And it's an advice reel of just like, I can't even remember, but there's reels I put my heart, soul, blood and tears in. And they literally tanked. So yeah, definitely hitting the points along the way.
Oh God, so much good stuff in there. I'm sat here like nodding. So much. TikTok then, because you mentioned it then. I know there's a lot of sort of Instagram fans who we like, and we're happy with Instagram and it works and we like it and we feel safe there. And, you know, we've got our friends in our DMs, and there's a sense of reluctance to go over to TikTok because we make assumptions of what we should be or what we might need to do to make that work. Are couples hanging out there?
Yeah, I think that, well, my couples are. I've had a really mixed, like, right now, I should have had a look in terms of comparison. So I've got nothing from Facebook. I've never got nothing from Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Nothing from Pinterest. But I have got inquiries obviously through Instagram, Google, recommend suppliers list, other suppliers, and now TikTok. TikTok is growing. When I booked a wedding at Ashridge House, and for context, Ashridge House is a luxury wedding venue. It's a very nice wedding venue. When I booked that, I was like, okay, this works. This works. I remember having like a client, what are they called? An interview. What are they? Consultation. I had a consultation with a client, and then I was like, oh, by the way, how did you find me? Because I didn't have TikTok as a category back then. She was like, oh, I found you through TikTok. I was like, wait, what? Because I always used to think TikTok was going to be like Vine, or these really weird things that pop up, and like these weird social media apps that pop up and then go. But no, it's here to stay. Do not jump onto TikTok if your social media is pants on Instagram. Just don't. Like, nail one, like, do one thing very well and then move on. That's what I did with Instagram. Started doing it, got my strategy, got what I was doing, and then I went to Pinterest. Pinterest didn't work. Let's move. Like, let's move. Like, let's actually move around. Let's not just stay on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
Basically the same thing. You could post the same thing at once. So TikTok definitely is, it's growing. The reason I jumped onto TikTok was because I have a baker friend in Ireland, and she put up a post saying she had majority of her bookings through TikTok. Now, if you do like celebration cakes, or if you do give me a wedding industry, if you do like if you're a singer or a musician, that is fantastic. The amount of people that just want to sit and watch. You're either going to social media to be entertained or for information. If you're not hitting those two things, people are just going to disengage. When you are on the train or when you're out, have a look at how people are using social media, because you can't really see yourself using social media, but the rate that people are just like swiping through, it's insane. So how on earth are they going to stick around for your content if you're putting up, one of my bugbears, if you're putting up a reel with black lines, like the black line, sorry.
Yeah.
No, if you're, it's, you don't have to have like drone footage, incredible footage, but you should have footage that you would actually trust. It's not like, we're not even at the buying stage, we're at the trusting stage. Can I trust this person to not like make me a cake fail cake? Can I trust this person to not give me a viral wedding because the wrong reasons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so satisfying watching people do their thing. Like, I mean, I've watched you, like, I don't know what the terminology for it is, but make a nice cake looking nice and smooth.
Yes.
I've watched that. I don't know how many minutes of watching you do that. I have watched a lot. And the same with, you know, calligraphy, or I love watching a florist transform like on, when it's speeded up and like, da-da-da-da-da-da. I love that content because it's quick, but you're seeing a transformation.
Yes, yes,
You're
definitely.
seeing,
That transformation is showing them they can't do it themselves.
I agree, totally.
Yeah.
Because unless your Auntie Sue is a baker, she's not making one of these cakes. You're having something very different. Same if you get your cousin Paul to make your invitations. He has not done calligraphy like this before. It's going to be very different. You're absolutely right. And it doesn't take much to actually put that content together, does it? Really?
No, it doesn't. I think we just talk ourselves, and I'm saying we because I do this as well. I think what changed the game for me is Kirsty's workshop at
Yes.
the BBC Live. That just changed the game for me. I actually popped out to the loo.
I remember this so clearly because afterwards you were like, this was amazing.
I'm sorry.
You had that whole chat with her.
She was like, it just clicked.
Yeah.
I think that day, that was for me the pinnacle of it all, because it clicked. Because I was like, and obviously the lunch, and obviously sorry, the lunch, the food was great. The food was great, but that was it for me.
Yeah.
And I had to see that it's possible. And that's the reason, because this can be huge imposter syndrome. If I rattle off like the venues that I've worked at, people I've worked with, and the stats, it's imposter syndrome, right? It's like, wait, what the heck? It's such a blessing to be able to do that. But you want to be able to see that it's possible. So I'm only at this amount of followers right now. But if I was sitting here and I had 50K, I would immediately disengage. I would just be like, well, what's the point? Because there's so many of us that are sitting at that figure, and the thing is, it's not about the figure, it's about the paying customers, right? It's not about the figure. But I should say, if you are, I personally, and I've spoken to a couple people about this, there's this weird follower complex. Unfortunately, some people think that businesses are more established if they have more followers. Sometimes that is right because they've been around for longer, you can trust them and doing something better with this. But I remember going to this cake class, and this lady was at 24K. She literally set up her Instagram very quickly. She did like a piping video, literally piping a cupcake. It went viral. and she grew her following basically overnight. That's what we're all hoping for, to have like a million reels. I'm at million view reels. I don't want that. I don't want that, because you grow your account rapidly, you have a disengaged audience, and Instagram is penalizing for you because they're like, wait, hey, you have 24K there, you've got like 50 people liking you, what the heck is happening here? So they're going to penalize you even more. So virality is fantastic, because if that's in like leading to paying customers, it's fantastic. But if it's not, no, I would choose the engaged audience any day.
I agree. I've had quite a few clients go viral, which I'm always really excited for them. And I genuinely am, because it feels awesome. Like when something goes viral, it's like, hooray, I'm finally recognized for this thing that I wanted to do and run my business, which is great. But my follow-up question is always, how much more money have you made from that? And if the answer is nothing more additional or less, it's a problem. You're absolutely right. It's a problem. So I personally don't think the target should ever be like, I want to go viral. It's exactly what you're saying, which is I want to grow an engaged following of people who like what I do, enjoy what I do, learn from what I do, and then pass that message on. Like your followers are kind of like your sales team in a very diluted way. Like, oh, do you know anyone who can come and do my cake at Ashridge? Oh, yes, actually, I follow this girl called Abigail. She makes cakes and she was at Ashridge the other day. Brilliant. That's a perfect scenario from social media, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some numbers then. How many of your customers do you find through socials?
Yeah. So we love Dubsado. I'm on Dubsado. So they able to do the little pie chart for me. Now, 30% of my customers, my actual booked customers, are from Instagram alone.
Wow.
This year, 11% is from TikTok. But if you were to just say inquiries, 44% of my inquiries come from Instagram. 44%. Now you may be thinking, wait, but it's not like 80% or whatever. But no, it's just Instagram. And if I have a look at my my weddings that have been booked through planners, which is growing, like that side is fantastically growing. But I'm talking about planners from the beginning, not like an on the day coordinator. That most of them have found me through Instagram, right? If they are like a planner that I've had this before, they are a planner, but they are planning a couple's wedding. They are an international couple. Sometimes like they would Google, and then I personally do this with business. I would Google, a business pops up, I vet them on Instagram. Like I always do that. I always go to a social media. One thing that is, sorry, completely like off topic, but one thing that is really important is you want your Instagram and your website to match.
Yes.
If the quality is not matching, something's a bit off. So if you have this incredible brand photo shoot like all over your website, and this is what happened to me actually. My website, I was very happy with it, but I went over to my Instagram and it was just like professional photography, iPhone photography. It was just all over the place. So I completely weeded out. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see that. If you have time, you can see that. So yeah, 30% of my clients right now are from Instagram alone, and I'm not including wedding planner. But now 11% is TikTok, which is crazy.
That is crazy and brilliant, because you know it's. I love what you're saying about you know, I give things a shot, and if they work, I then scale that. I do more of what's working, and we talked about that, didn't we, at the live event in November? Like that's good business sense. Like, what's working in my business? Okay, this thing is working really well and proving to be a success. Right, let's back that. Let's do more of what's working over there. This thing over here, I've given it a good shot, like you with your Pinterest, and actually I'm not reaping the rewards from that. So I'm going to just step back from that a little bit. And that's what we have to do. There's not a one size fits all. I know other people who will have literally 90% of their business comes from Pinterest, but they wouldn't have known that until they give it a go. And that could have been you, but it turned out that wasn't right for you. And it's a bit kind of like suck it and see, and work out your own equation of all of these parts of the marketing puzzle. Question then, do you find that your conversion rate with inquiries through social media is any higher or lower than other sources?
Yeah, definitely. I think Instagram is like, let's cast the net.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I should say that's like 30% that's actually converted,
Yeah.
right? Majority of my inquiries come through Instagram, but only 30% of them are converting. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not panicking at that. If they come through Google, it's very likely that they will convert for
Mm.
me. Like it's just they're more well informed and they have had like a proper look at my website. But really, they just okay, so they Instagram, you're just seeing my shop front, right? My just shop window, that's all you're seeing. But in my website, you're actually coming in, you're sitting down, you're having it like you're going around my house,
Yeah.
right? Because you've got my flavors, you've got access to everything. So conversion rates are lower, but that's it. That doesn't faze me because
No.
I'm really getting my name out there. It was amazing yesterday. I need to reshare on my Instagram. One of the weddings got featured. I worked with a planner. They got featured on a magazine. It got picked up. That's fantastic because this magazine has 90,000 followers, right? That is going to be spread. Obviously, not to all of their 90,000 followers because that doesn't work like that. But it will be shared. Other suppliers, tagging other suppliers that have either a smaller following or like a whoever. That is fantastic. I've done shoots with people probably like 3 years ago, and they have grown so much. You have no idea where business like people are at in their business journey. So make sure you tag them and include them. Just tag
Yeah.
everyone. Like make sure that you tag people.
Yeah.
So yeah, converting. It doesn't faze me, but they are converting. They are
Mm.
converting.
Yeah. And to be honest, like that's business, right? Like if we were big multinational organizations, we would know that customers that come from billboards convert at a different rate than customers who hear about us on the radio, than hear about us on the TV. Like that's just good business, understanding these sources, these channels. And just because one costs more than the other in terms of time or effort or money to generate, it doesn't make it invalid, is what I'm
Right.
saying. So I think that's a really important point. um I feel like I could go on forever, but also conscious of time. What let's just zoom into a little bit on Instagram then. Are you finding that grid posts, reels, and stories are all still working? Do you have to do them all to be successful overall on Instagram? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, because you have to be seen.
Yeah.
If like, I'm so sorry to break it to you, but you have to put in work. Now, one thing I do is I set a timer and I go through audios, right? I set a timer, like a 5-minute timer, scroll, save audios that say like under like 8,000 listens or plays or reuse, sorry. And I save that, right? That is limits. We need limits. I have a limit on my Instagram and my TikTok. So I have to actually like put in a password, then only do it in 15-minute increments. I have to do that. Unless I would spend, what was my recent obsession? Those cat memes of like cats driving a car. I don't know if you want to see, not memes, those are real. Oh, I love them. I absolutely love them. Unless I would spend all my time doing that. So, and I'm not even a cat person either, but they're so funny. Oh, there's this one where this cat is driving and like the building's burning in the background. I don't know if you see.
I haven't, but I'm laughing because I watched a reel, I think about 20 times over, of a beaver eating cabbage. And it was like, did you know if you watch a beaver eat cabbage, it reduces your stress levels by
Oh.
15%? And I sent it to my kids. I was like, this is so cute. And then I was like, oh, what's happened to me?
So
So I know what you're saying. You got to have boundaries, right?
we need boundaries, but we also need to create shareable content. That's how our account keeps on going, right? We're not, and that's one thing. Try everything. I would say try everything. I put up this reel of like raccoon. This man was literally hand feeding raccoons, and they were coming up to him. And I said, like, this is what it's like having cake samples at a wedding show. That's what it was like.
I've seen a raccoon.
We all have. We all have. So I try everything. Okay,
Yeah.
if content's not working for you, that's fine. Okay, try advice content. You are a professional. Now, you are a professional whether you like it or not. I have never been to cake school, but I've made X amount of wedding cakes, and I'm like, people can trust me with their wedding cakes. You're an expert. Give advice. One thing that I think I got from you before I joined the WBC, you're probably thinking, what on earth did I say? But I think there was one time you did like a Q&A, which I love the Q&A calls, or the coaching calls. You said that after a wedding consultation, jot down all the questions they ask you. And that was like, mind blown, because this is normal to you. How do you deliver the cake? Is it stacked or is it that? But it's not like common knowledge to anyone. So do not just post one picture. Don't post one picture. Sometimes do it every now and then to just kind of test things, but post carousels. The reason you want to post carousels, the multiple pictures, is because if people don't see the first image, later on, it will bring up the second image, right? It has more of a longevity of content. Definitely, like, whether you like it or not, you have to do reels. Instagram is copying TikTok. You have to do reels. I'm not one of those people that say, well, try it out. They're not. No, you have to do reels. You have to. And I'm sorry to say, but really just put your phone up. If you are doing calligraphy, invest in a little mount, right? If you're either a calligrapher, if you're a florist, or for me, like, every other industry has just gone out of my head. What do other people do in weddings?
Hair and makeup artists.
Hair and makeup. People love that.
Yeah.
They want to see transformation. Because you want to watch to the end. If you watch into the end, it gets you plays, right? Instagram picks up that it likes your content, so it's going to push it out more. So put your phone up, record everything, buy storage and record everything. You don't have to have an incredible phone, but just record everything. Stories is where you can see a little bit more of your personality. Play games as well, like, if you like, what would you rather, all of this stuff, because people are interacting. But share a little bit more of your personality on that. Sometimes I literally just put on my phone and just have a natter and just talk at my phone, or if I'm walking to the station, I just like talk to my phone. I don't mind that. Now, I know I'm comfortable speaking to camera, but I know not everyone's like that. Okay, for example, I traveled. I wasn't able to be on, like, speaking to camera. So what I did was the create post. I would just put graphics up and then just type. That was still a lot of engagement. Obviously, the most engagement is when you're being seen, but still just do something. Just, if you can, I try and take weekends off. But if you are saying, my business hours on social media are Monday to Friday, I'm going to put, this is what I normally like to do. I like to do 2 reels a week, 3 grid posts, and then I'm on stories every day. Like, that sounds overwhelming, but when it's a habit, you just keep on doing it. Because you're on, let's be honest, you're on Instagram already, but just use it. Just like, use it as you're changing from you need to put off your consumer hat and you're a creator now. So use it. You're not just scrolling.
Abigail, thank you so much. There is so much you have said and shared there that is wildly useful. You're a fountain of knowledge. You're an absolute joy to be around. I have loved having you in the club, and I've loved watching you rebrand and grow. And honestly, I've said it a couple of times in the club, in our private sessions, but the way you have embraced social media has been quite phenomenal. And you are in my feed all the time now. I am seeing your content and I love what you're doing. So thank you for being so open and sharing with us. Thank you for trying these things and being somebody who I teach things to, and you go off and you take action. And I love that for you, and success will continue to come your way. And thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.